So welcome to the Doctors Pursley. I'm Dr. Jacob Pursley with my sister, Dr. Sarah Pursley, medical doctor. And I'm in Yerevan, Armenia, and she is in Oklahoma City. And we're continuing our segment on my sister specifically. This time we're finishing up the organization she founded, Vision for Peace, that helps children in Pakistan and Cameroon. And I wanted to ask, do you have any further plans or vision for what could happen with Vision for Peace for the future?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is it. So I graduate residency in, I don't have my residency counter because I'm on the phone right now, but my residency countdown is on the phone. And I could tell you the days and minutes and seconds to when I finish. Okay, so I finished on June 30th, which is, today's the 25th of April. So very soon. And okay, this is the culmination of all of my plans for the last 12 years. It's taken 12 years, it's been a long time. So it's coming to an end in 2 months, 2.5 months, 2 months and 5 days. And I've already signed a contract for my job, a real job, that starts in September in Reno, Nevada. And I'll be a hospitalist. And I'm going to have paychecks. And I'm getting a sign-on bonus. And I'm going to be able to finally do the whole reason that I began going to med school to begin with, which is, which I've already talked to mom and dad's accountant about setting up a 503c and turning Vision for Peace into my own 503c and actually really investing into some of the villages there.
That's wonderful. So I was just going to say, mom and dad meaning Dr. Dow Pursley and our mother, Joanne Pursley. And the one thing that I want to say is that, you said you've been, this is a culmination of 12 years. I mean, doing anything in life, learning a language, you have to have a motivation. In school, you need to have a motivator. Why am I doing this? And what is, that's one of the things that I think kept you sane. One of the things, anyway,
yeah, for sure,
was this motivation to finish medical school, was to do this ministry.
Yeah, it was more than a motivation. It was like it's not optional. It made it not a choice that I had to make every day. Like, especially, you know what I realized? So the day I started medical school in 2012, when I started medical school in 2012, I had just come back from Pakistan from one of my trips. Yep. And it was my most recent trip. So it's been since 2012. I haven't been. But I was literally still sick, still taking metronidazole, still taking ciprofloxacin for parasites from that trip. And I was still sick left over from that trip. And I was still, there's always something that happens to you when you travel from those really third world places that are very sad and very poor back to the United States. And now you're back in this world where you're just kind of in culture shock for a minute. And I was still coming down from that type of high of being in that country, being around those people, it's not a high, it's this pressure. It's like the whole time you're there, you feel a pressure on top of you. Like, what are you going to do to fix this? How are you going to make things better for these people? You've made a lot of promises, and it's the level of desperation around you. It's almost overwhelming. So I went into medical school with that pressure right there, right on. So that made it really easy to study for the first 6 months, where that's all I thought about. And I remembered, and not even 6 months, for the first 2 years. So I had pictures of that trip. I had it all over the place. I had pictures all over my desktop. And I would wake up seeing those pictures and being like, oh yeah, those are those babies I promised that I'm going to help pay for their school and try to make things better for them. And God gave me this opportunity to go to medical school so I can make this happen. And I better make this happen. So it helped me a lot with studying, because sometimes a lot of times in med school, you get overwhelmed and you feel like you're not going to make it, or because all of a sudden you go from being the smartest person in your class. Because, like, okay, I never had any trouble with school in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I never even thought about school. I just did it and I got A's and whatever. I didn't even think about it. And then college came. College was a little bit of work. I had to study, but still I could say, oh yeah, I got this, and I got my A's and
Mm-hmm.
I can
And
make
you
A's.
studied organic chemistry for your bachelor's, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
so my bachelor's degree, it's a Bachelor of Arts and it's in chemistry, straight chemistry.
Okay.
That's the degree. It's a Bachelor of Arts in chemistry, but I had to take organic 1 and 2.
Right.
And PChem and all the other stuff. No, but it's just, so when you're taking those classes, yes, so it's hard, but you know that if you study a lot, you're going to get through it and it's okay. And you kind of just know that, and you're not, it's a different kind of pressure. You know that you can study and get through it. Med school is different. When you get to med school, you realize all of a sudden that back in the day, you would look around the classroom and be like, oh, wow, that girl is the smartest girl in the room, or that guy, he's the smartest kid, and he doesn't even have to study. He does good. He makes A's. Sure. And maybe I was used to being one of those, the smarter ones. Maybe I was used to not having to really work and I could do this, Once you get to med school, you realize everybody is you. Everybody is the smartest person in the room. And they're smarter than you. And everybody was that kid. Everybody was definitely that kid. And all of a sudden, that's everyone. And you're just one of those kids. And some of them are much smarter than you. And then you all of a sudden realize, you all of a sudden feel like maybe you're not going to make it. Like maybe it's too hard. Maybe this wasn't what you thought you could do it, but maybe you can't. And all of a sudden you go through until you figure out and learn the system of how to study for it and how to pass the test and how to do really well. So imagine in medical school, I went from making a 60% average in my first semester, which was the barely passing average. I was about to fail out on the first semester, to making a 4.0 in my last semester of med school.
Wow.
So if you look at my grades in med school, it starts at the lowest it could possibly go, and it makes a direct line like this, straight line. And it's just because I finally learned how to study and how to get through it and how to get through the material and what I would have to do. And I would know at the beginning of the semester, like at the beginning of every subject, every topic, like, oh, this is what I have to do to get a decent grade, or to get a better grade. I'm going to have to do that much more, and it took me 2 straight years of just the clinical work. That's just the clinical work grades. So it took me 2 straight years of taking tests for it to go from 60 to a 4.0, but it wasn't easy, And then there were those kids who they started out at a 4.0 and they stayed at a 4.0. That's what I'm trying to say. You start school with those kids in med school and you're like, what? This is harder than I knew.
So do you have some encouragement, advice? I mean, you not only do you finish med school, you're a single mom. You went through your bachelor's degree. You were working so hard at other jobs, but you were doing your bachelor's degree. You went right from that, applying for medical school, and you're a single mom. You have a daughter that's also brilliant and speaks Chinese, Japanese, and Spanish and whatever. How did all this? Do you have any suggestions for other maybe single moms, or just people struggling and thinking, can I do this?
Yeah, they can do it. I try to tell people that. I always tell people that, you know what, now that I'm a doctor and I see these little kids for their well child exams all the time. So I'll have these little kids in the room and I'll ask them, like, what do they want to be when they grow up? And I want to tell them. And some of them say they want to be a doctor. And I'm like, oh, good. You can definitely do that. Anybody can become a doctor. And it's not just because you're smart. I always tell them, you look like one of those smart ones, but maybe you're lazy. I'm not sure. You probably have to study harder. But the point is, it's not about your intelligence level. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with how hard you are willing to work. And that is all. And it has to do with not giving up when it doesn't go that well, because it hasn't always gone that well for me. So you have to not give up, and you have to keep trying and keep trying. And if you fail a test, you have to figure out how to pass that test and work 50 times harder and figure it out. But the point is, it's all about the amount of work you put into it. It has nothing to do with like the magical intelligence you were born with. I believe everyone is born with like sort of a level, like in the same level.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sort of in the same. And then it's just about how much work you're going to put into it. About jobs and Elif, and when she was younger, I don't, honestly, Jacob, I don't think I could have done this when she was very small.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people do. I meet people that do it. I meet people who do that in medical school with their kids when they're very small. I don't know if I could have done it. I don't think my brain was. Look, you knew me when I was a teenager. I was like the most airheaded girl who ever lived. It's a miracle I'm a doctor, honestly. The fact is that in my 20s, I was like, my head was not in the place to focus, get it together, and do the work to come to this point until I'm at my age that I'm at now. Because in my 20s, I was not ready to do this. And if she'd been a lot younger, it would have been harder. I'm not sure how I would have done it. It would have been different, and it would have been, I think, more difficult. I think I would have needed a lot more help, is what I think, honestly, because the day I left from medical school, we had celebrated Jasmine's high school graduation party a week before I left.
I see.
So I left on May 1st was my first day of med school, and she graduated from high school in May. I missed her high school graduation. We just had our party early. But if she had not been graduating high school at that same time, I don't know if I could have just left and gone off to med school and like, okay, bye, good luck. I mean, she was 18 or 17.
Well, so can I say something real quick? So, a lot of people think, oh no, I'm just, I think you need to tell people that are listening, like you said you didn't just start off in medical school in your 20s. I mean, a lot of people, they start their university at 18 years old. They finish at 2021. Then they apply for med school, and then they're done at this certain time. But your trajectory was a little different. But what's interesting about that is
different.
But what's interesting about that, Sarah, is that God had this plan for you. I mean, to meet Parveen, and they have this vision for the need in Pakistan specifically, and that motivated you. And I mean, how old were you when you started medical school? I just want people to know, because that's amazing.
Well, so wow, I never calculated it. It was in 2012.
Yeah,
so I started this whole process when I was 30, honestly, because for my undergrad too.
Right.
So for my undergrad also, I started when I was 30 years old.
Okay.
It took me, I had to organize my FedEx schedule and my Dillard schedules in a way where I could go to school in the morning. So I could go to school every day in the morning, drive my FedEx truck in the afternoons, and then do Dillards on the weekends. And FedEx had tuition reimbursement, so they were paying for my undergrad for like one semester of my undergrad. And then the single parent scholarship was paying for most of the other expenses that I had for the undergrad for the other semester. So basically, when I graduated with my undergrad and the bachelor's of chemistry from the University of Arkansas, I had zero debt because of that, because FedEx and the single parent scholarship. But I started all that when I was 30.
So you started the
I started
journey
medical
at 30.
school. Well, this is 2020, and I just turned 45 yesterday. So I was 37.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that like most people would think, I've what have I done with these life? What can I do? I can't do anything now in the future. I mean, and you have proven that that's not true. I mean, to anybody, I think, why not? Anyway, it's amazing. So, any other advice that you might have for people that might, where I work right now, there's going to be probably about 30 or 40 medical school students that I know personally at the church I serve at, that will watch this film. And I know a lot of them are struggling. Now they're having to do their education a little different because of the coronavirus. It's hard. So it's a little more stressful right now for a lot of people. Things are uncertain, but you have any advice for struggling students? You just shared, I was just thinking, on last Sunday, we had a family Bible devotion and prayer time, and we all joined on Zoom, and you shared some things from scriptures that were specifically encouraging to you, and you had a website that you went to. Can you explain anything about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, I thought I was going to fail after my first semester. I mean, I really did. I thought, oh, um, so the semesters are 3 months long, and then you get a 2-week break. So I went home to Arkansas on the break, and I thought, oh, I'm never going back because I'm probably going to fail. I don't know if I passed. I don't think I passed. I was really on the verge. And actually going like that and then starting the next, after barely passing, and then going back to start my next semester, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot be this close to barely passing each semester. Like, it's too much stress to have this pressure for this. And um, I would just say that, man, you really have to learn how to study and how many hours you have to put in to memorize, and to figure out. It's almost like you have to make your own system for how to do it. It helps with friends sometimes if you get like a good group of people who, and learn tips from them of how they study. That always helps. And people can help each other really figure. It's really like you have. It's almost like every semester in college, every class you take, you're taking a new professor, a new system. You have to learn that professor, what they want, how they want to do their test, how you're going to make an A in that class with that professor. Only med school is kind of like that the whole time, with this massive amounts of information. And you really have to focus on it. I mean, it came down to a point where I actually had a friend of mine who helped me get through organic chemistry, would study with me every day. And so my friend came to visit me on the island, and I had told my friend, like, I don't know if I'm going to pass. I barely passed last semester. And they were like, no, you're going to pass. And you're going to study every day with me, whether you want to or not. And we're starting at 6 a.m. And so every day at 6 a.m. I'd start my lectures. Then I would start studying, and it would be midnight. And I'd be like, wow, I haven't taken a shower. And he's like, whatever, you can shower in a couple of days. You got to study. And I was like, okay, no showering, let's study. And it was just studying, studying, studying. And I did that for those 2 weeks. And I did nothing but studying, and barely, like, he'd throw food in and be like, wait, eat that, but then study. No, you don't have time for a shower. You got to study. And that's literally all I did. And then the next test I took on that block, I got a 74. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's a better score. That's not on the verge of failing. I passed it. So then I knew how to make a 74. And so then I could move it up to an 85, which took a lot more work. But it was just like the whole system. It's like you had to learn how to study. And then the next thing I would say for them is not to give up. I failed step 2 the first time I took it by 2 points. And that was really, I thought for a minute that was the end of the world. I thought, oh, it's the end of the world. I just failed. It's gone. It's over. It's done. I've just, everything is gone. I just failed step 2. It's our board exams, and by 2 points, and I failed it. And that was really when mom and dad made that was a big deal. Mom and dad changed my life, because that day they were like, no, you're just taking a prep class. That's what that means. You're taking a prep class for that test. So find out when the next prep class is, and you're going and you're taking, so you better start studying. And I was just like, because for a minute I just felt like it was the end. And after mom and dad did what they did, that changed everything. I'm really grateful to mom and dad, because I found a prep class that was starting like 2 days later. And I went and I did it. And I got an insanely high score that I didn't even imagine I could even ever get. I got a crazy high score. And I learned the value of prep classes, which I hadn't even known anything about before. Wow. And I had no clue that was even something that existed and that could help you make those kinds of scores. Wow. But it was just about not giving up, and because it's a big deal when you fail those tests, that can change whether you're going to match for residency or not. So it was a very big deal, and I'm really thankful for mom and dad pushing me like that.
That's great.
But yeah, mom at some point realized that I was on the verge of losing my mind when I was down on the island studying, and she sent me those verses. And it's a website that you can find, and it's I think I'd written it down, the glory. I'll look it up and I'll put the link.
Yeah, that's true. We'll put it in the description box. No problem.
But if you just put like verses that got me through med school, it will be the first thing that pops up. So it's another guy who was in med school losing his mind, as we all do. And he did a wiser thing and a nicer, cooler thing than I've ever, which put all the verses together in a pile, and why they helped him and how they helped him and when they helped him. And when I was reading through those verses, every once in a while, one of them would just be like, hit me. Like, wow, that is for you. That is true. Get it together. Everyone, we're going through this. He went through this. Everyone, we're all going through this. And this is where God's at, and God's with us, and God's going through this too. And it changed. It helped a lot. It helped a lot being able to just even glance at those verses before tests and things. Made a big difference.
That's great. Yep. Well, and we did pray for you a lot, all of us in the family. Praying.
That's probably why I'm alive.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why. No, it was a stressful thing.
Yeah, I remember.
You go through some very dark times when you're by yourself studying every day from 6 a.m. to midnight for years at a time. You lose all your friends. Whoever you had as friends before you started med school, those are not your friends.
Right.
And you don't have friends. And you're just, it's very isolating, and you go to a very dark place sometimes. So you really need that prayer, and you need those verses, because it's hard. It's hard for everybody. I never saw one person get through it without having those days.
Can I ask you to maybe just talk about one more thing? And, a lot of people that are in med school, they have these ideas. Well, I'm going to be in med school now, and the thing that's my motivator that's going to make me happy is that as soon as I'm done, I'm buying a Rolex watch, I'm buying a fancy sports car, and I'm going to buy a big house. And that's kind of like their motivator, they think that's going to bring them joy in their life, happiness in their life. But you have just basically said in this episode and last episode, that's not been your motivator. The thing that is bringing you joy and happiness is that that you're going to be able to help people, obviously in your medical profession, but also through this mission in Pakistan. I mean, that's your motivator. So can you talk a little bit about that maybe help people to get them on the right thinking? Yeah.
I feel like everybody knows. I feel like people who were raised with lots and lots of money will be the first people to tell you that it doesn't cause happiness.
Yeah, that would be Lisa, my wife, Dr. Lisa Pursley. She was raised with a lot of money. That didn't bring her happiness. And she knows that. And that was never the thing. And that helped her get over that. Yeah.
Bring happiness. It doesn't create happiness.
Right.
It's something that it's gonna. I can't tell you. I can't lie and tell you like I'm not excited about getting normal paychecks and not having to worry about how I'm paying my car payment. Like, thank God. Like, imagine not having to worry about your car payment all of a sudden. Like, that's weird. That's very weird. Okay. I mean, I've been worried. I mean, I had those days with Elif where we would like figure out where we were gonna drive because we could only afford gas to go to certain locations. Like, things were pretty grim. And when Elif was little, things were very grim with my paychecks. I remember looking at my pay stubs, and I was like, oh wow, I made $12,000 that year. That wasn't a bad year. I'm not sure how I lived. I know I couldn't fix the car. I know I was always trying to get the car fixed. I know I made $12,000 that year. I know at Fedex I made $30,000 a year. You know what I mean? So I know, it's not that easy when you're just barely trying to pay your bills. So, okay, I can't lie and tell you it's not going to be amazing when I'm not having to freak out about how I'm going to be paying my next month bills. That's going to be great. I'm very excited about that. But I know inside me that buying some car or buying some house or buying something it doesn't make you happy, really. You have that thing for a minute. Maybe you get excited about it for a few minutes. It's not going to be a lasting kind of happiness. It's something I found out actually in Pakistan, because I don't know if I told you that, but when you go there, like, there were some days I'm in this village with no water and electricity. We're sitting around a fire, singing music and eating together, drinking tea together around these water buffaloes and animals around us pooping everywhere. And we're all sitting around singing with like the great grandparents, the grandparents and the babies, and everyone's running around. And for some reason at that moment, I realized we're really missing it in the United States. Like, the level of happiness that they have at that moment, their level of happiness is so high compared to ours. Just having all of that going around them, and that just having that family together like that, being able to enjoy each other like that, having time to do that, and doing that every day with them. And I was just like, wow, we're really missing it in the United States. We're missing it. There's something about our culture that we're missing it. And for sure, I just know myself that I don't get that excited about cars or houses. So I know those things don't make me happy. I already know that. And I feel like people who have lots of things know that also. I feel like I'm lucky that I'm having not had those things, knowing that doesn't create happiness for me.
That's great. Well, that's good. You know, that a lot of people think that that's going to do that. And I know quite a few people that make a lot of money that they buy a lot of stuff, but then it's that fleeting moment where that makes them feel good. They can use the thing for a day, a week, a month, but then it goes away, and then they got to buy a thing again. Then they're going to buy the next thing, and their life is continually consumed with consuming. And I think our dad just did a program on how to be happy. And, you know, his first statement was, you know, by helping people. You want to truly be happy, it's by giving to the poor. The Bible even says that, you know. And it's just interesting. Yeah.
I think it's just true. Yeah. But I mean, come on, I can't lie telling you that I'm not excited about not having to freak out about paying my bills. I am excited with that. Yeah. And when people are always, I think I was reading online, I think there's like a certain amount of money that if you make it, you're at a certain level that your happiness doesn't go up after $70,000. It doesn't go up after that. After you can pay your bills and not be freaking out about trying to pay your bills, then it doesn't change your happiness level. But at some point where you're barely making it and you're barely being able to buy food, okay, yeah, your happiness level is going to improve if you're able to more easily afford food and stuff for your families. Come on, of course your happiness level is going to improve for that too. You know, I'm just talking about at some level, because you know, I was talking to my friends at work and I'm like, at some point, I don't think my happiness level between making $300,000 or $500,000 or $700,000. They're like, oh, but those surgeons make $800,000. I'm like, okay, but then they have to live in the hospital. And then I'm like, okay, this is what I've realized. At what point does your happiness level change? Does it change after you made between $200,000 to $300,000 a year? Does your happiness level change of who your happiness level, or between 3 and 4, or between 4 and 5, or between 5 and 7? And when you get to some number up there, does your happiness level change? No, I think between 20,000 and 40,000, it changes. I do think it makes a big difference because you don't have to worry about buying food and things. So I think between 20 and 40,000, it is hard. It's hard when you can barely pay your bills. But after a certain number, which is I think around 80,000, I don't think your happiness level changes that much. And you know, so I don't know. Well, I get less excited about. I've been thinking more and more about that because now all of a sudden my income is going to be crazy high. And I'm like, okay, well, is my life going to change if I make 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? Like, what do I want to spend my time on, spend my energy on? Do I want to make up to, and then do I need to continue trying to make more and trying to make more, you know?
Like you're going to get a side gig that makes another 200 grand or something. You're right.
Right. Yeah. And so then do I want to spend more time and energy on that on my free time? I'm going to have a week off every other week. I get 2 weeks off every month. That means I have free time to do all kinds of businesses and spend time on all kinds of work. Okay. So if I'm already making 500, should I be spending that time making more? Is that going to change my happiness level? No. Anybody's happiness level. I don't know. I don't think so. I'll be able to. The thing I have to look at it though is that if I do create a business that is making money that I could give away to those people, that's what I mean. I think it does change your happiness level. If you make that $12,000 a year and now you're making 30, that makes a difference. Yeah. And in Pakistan, if you're making absolutely nothing and now you can eat, that makes a difference, you know?
Right. And that's the point, I think, that I really wanted to emphasize is that, you know, you're doing this is to help people. I mean, you're going to be starting things that and helping people around the world that will continue to change not only their lives personally, but their family's life when they get an education and they can improve their lives of their family and the country that they're at. And it was so anyway, I think that's really the point.
it becomes stressful. It becomes a little scary, actually. I'm going to have to become really wise about where I'm spending my money in those countries, how I'm spending it, and if I'm starting businesses there for them, or if I'm paying for education. Because what if I pay for their education and then they can't get a job? Right. Or, so I'm going to have to really start being careful and wise about how to invest that money back in those communities and make sure it's sustainable for them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I think, the rest of my life trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Totally understand that. Well, Sarah, I think we probably need to sign off on this second episode. We've gone a little long, but I think it's going to encourage a lot of people that are going to watch it, specifically medical students, people that I know personally, maybe you know some. And well, I do, and it's fun being able to see you this way. And we will do some more episodes in different times on various subjects. But we wanted to start off, I think, with this bio about you and how you got to where you're at, because it's inspiring, and I think people need to hear that. So thanks for spending the time on your day off. You've been working like a dog, testing COVID patients. So, yeah.
Parties. Yeah, no, I've been doing so many things. I've been on OB service, and then I've been on inpatient service, and then the drive-through testing this week. So just kind of all over the place. But yeah, but no, it's fun, Jacob.
All right, Sarah. All right, talk to you later.
Bye.